everywhere I have been on the continent, the languages might be different. The cultural traditions a little bit different. But if you dig into who is sustaining, who is maintaining, who is inspiring communities, it is almost always women. In the 1980s, I worked for a development consulting company that was based in Hartford, Connecticut, but did all its work on the African continent. Yeah, I still am trying to work out how we ended up doing that, but it was a wonderful experience. And I mean, this was my first job out of graduate school, and I've never reached the same level of employment since. It's been downhill since then. But at one point, the work that I was working on in the West African division. And so we spent a lot of time in Nigeria and Ghana. And at that time, it was commonly asserted by economists that what maintained the Nigerian and the Ghanaian economy were the market women. That at a time when their currency was very shaky, when the corruption was rampant in government and private business, that it was the market women who ensured that people were employed, who ensured that food was available, who ensured that trade happened between the countries. And many of these market women were uneducated women. But they were women with a vision and, very importantly, with the support of one another, so that they formed co-ops to buy goods in surrounding countries and transport them to one another. That they formed associations that built clinics and schools in the villages that they came from. And that is the story of African women. And it's not the story that, as I said last year, that is most commonly known or most commonly told. That the story that is most commonly seen of African women is of a group sitting, waiting to be saved by the world. And that is so very far from the truth. It is far from the truth when you look at villages on the continent, when you look at who were the first responders to the AIDS pandemic on the continent. It was women of those communities where people were dying, who took in the orphan children. When you look at villages and look to see who it is who supplies the food, it is women who are the main farmers of the communities of the African continent. And when you look, it is true not only of the women in the villages, but it is true of African women throughout the diaspora. That when you look at the continent and see schools being built or clinics being built, it is most often that it is African women who have made it outside of the continent who are investing in those schools and clinics in the communities from which they came. So when today you pledge to Soul Source, you are pledging to support an organization that is supporting people who are already active. These are not people waiting to be saved by the world. These are not women waiting for a handout. These are women who are already doing and are simply asking for help to improve what it is they are able to do. And when we look, we see that this focus on girls and women is one that and suddenly the world is waking up to. And that more and more organizations here are focusing on the empowerment of women and girls. Right here in Minnesota, so that when you leave in Minneapolis, so when you leave here after you've given like $200 to Soul Source, I'm not suggesting that if you want to give more, you definitely can. But that you can then go home and get on the computer and go to joinmyvillage.com and click and give through that General Mills Foundation, that by your clicking, you are supporting work around women and girls. That the UN Foundation now has an organization, Girl Up, that again is seeing the impact and the importance of investing in women and girls, particularly on the African continent. So today, we're asking you to be a part of the work of Soul Source. But we're also telling you that by being a part of that, you are being a part of a vision, a much larger vision for our world. A vision that says, if you give an African woman a fly, she will find a way to feed her family. If you give an African woman a dream, if you give an African woman a chance to see a brighter future, if you give an African girl an opportunity for an education, if you give a group of African women resources to invest in business, education, then you are giving our world a better chance. Thank you.